On today's show, the director, writer, and producer of the new film Cagefighter, please welcome Jesse Quinones.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. And very excited to be talking about Cagefighter with all of your listeners.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Mike Rand Show, and today's special guest is the director, producer, and writer of the new film Cagefighter. Please welcome Jesse Quinones. Hey Jesse, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We're so happy to have you here today. I saw the film Cagefighter. It's amazing. I loved it. Everybody be sure to go check that out. And what I want to start off asking you first is, how did this all come about? How did you get the idea and concept for this film?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of martial arts, and I came up with the idea about 5 years ago, and I just always loved the fight movies like Rocky and Bloodsport, and I always felt like fighting was a really good metaphor for life, and for overcoming adversity. And I was kind of dealing with some adversity in my own life at the time. And I just wanted to kind of write about it in the kind of fight movie genre. And spent a number of years working on the script. And then it started falling together a couple years ago. And here we are, a movie that's kind of out in the world, and people get to watch it.
Now, you do have a martial arts background as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 11 years now, since 2009. I initially started it when my son was born. I just wanted to do it to get in shape a bit, because I find running really boring and lifting weights and really repetitive. And I just thought, let me try doing something that I can actually learn something. And it was just a way of getting in shape with my brother. And we just stuck to it and fell in love with it. And I've been doing it ever since. I got my black belt a couple years ago in 2018. And so it's one of those things that I just think I'll be doing for the rest of my life. I think falling in love with doing martial arts made me kind of appreciate what athletes go through and what professional martial artists go through. And it definitely informed a lot of my approach in terms of the writing of Cagefighter, and also a lot in the choreography, because when we were designing the fights with Alex, I think having a martial arts base really helped in terms of understanding the beats and the choreography, and it's kind of was my two loves put together in one thing.
Can you walk us through about the process of putting this film together? Like you said that it took you like 5 years basically. So can you tell us how this all came about, coming together and, making the film finalized, scouting locations, casting, all that stuff, how that comes into play?
Yeah. So like the script alone was probably years. I'd say good 3 or 4 years, many rewrites, and development. Things really kind of took shape when I met the producers of Cagefighter, Shane Putzlocker and Sarah Shack, and that kind of started to crystallize things. And I'm based in London, so in the UK. So the plan was to make the film in the UK, but UK is a very expensive place to shoot, so that didn't work out. And so we were going to go to Romania because there's some really great sound stages over there, and then that didn't work out. And Shane and Sarah are from Canada, and Shane's from Regina, Saskatchewan. And so we kind of talked about, he suggested Regina as a place to shoot because, one, we had access to a really incredible soundstage that would rival any soundstage you would see in Hollywood. And two, we had access to like an arena, like a proper hockey arena, which we used for one of the scenes in the film. And so for those two reasons, they were like kind of the big setup, the big set pieces we had in the movie. It just made a lot of sense. And, It was incredible. We had a number of months of prep, casting the film and all that, and then things really started to get excited when we started casting real people into the movie. Like we got John Moxley, who a lot of people will know from AEW, and he stepped in to play kind of the big antagonist in the movie, Randy Stone, and Gina Gershon, who I always kind of pictured playing the role of Max Black, who's like the head honcho promoter. Chuck Liddell, Luke Rockhold, just legends of the UFC, and then my good friend Alex Montagne, who was the fight choreographer, but then stepped in to play the lead role. So all those things just started falling into place. And then the shoot itself was a very intense 4 weeks in Regina, shooting 4 fights over 6 days. And then COVID happened. We had to finish post-production during lockdown, and I was meant to go back to Canada for that, but then we ended up doing it remotely. But it's been an interesting journey to pull the movie together. But I think I'm really proud of it, and I'm really proud that we managed to get the film out there. Hopefully it's something that wrestling fans and MMA fans will really enjoy and appreciate.
So the actual filming then, was that only 4 weeks, or was that longer?
Yeah, it was 4 weeks in Canada, and then about a week in London, just for the exteriors, because the film was still set in London, but we shot all the interiors in Canada. So we did a week of like exterior shots in London.
Yeah, so when you think about it, it's kind of crazy for just the film, when people hear you, talk about this process, how long it actually takes, because it is an enormous process just for that.
Yeah, it's still half the length of my first film, because my first feature took me 13 years from idea to completion. So hopefully the next one doesn't take as long. I'm writing the next one right now, and I'm hoping it's not another 5 years.
Now, in this film, you mentioned Alex Montagne, who's the lead in here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was actually the fight choreographer originally, right? And then he stepped up to the lead role. So can you tell us about what happened there, how he was able to get that?
Yeah, we had another actor attached, and then through some, visa issues, it just wasn't meant to be. And we were about 4 weeks out from shooting, and we were just in this really tricky situation where we needed somebody that could learn the fight choreography quick enough and also could act. And I've known Alex for years. I've known him since he's like 18 years old. So he's a really good friend. And I knew he could handle the fight side of things, but he had done a few shorts, but he never kind of done a role that needed him to be emotionally invested for 4 weeks of shooting. But I just felt like he had what it took, and it wasn't an easy kind of pitch to the producers, because he was, he's a new actor, but he did self-tape after self-tape and really kind of immersed himself in it. And I think he did a really amazing job. And, I would love to see him. I'm excited to see where he goes from here. He's gotten picked up by an agent now. And, I think I could picture him being the next Scott Adkins or some action star, So I think he's in a really exciting place in his career right now.
Yep. So anybody who hasn't seen his episode, we have an episode with Alex on here too. So be sure to check that out so you can learn a little bit more about him. And then the other lead in the film is John Moxley, as you mentioned, from AEW. So tell us how you got to land John Moxley in this role. And was that role, he's really good at that role. It's sort of like his personality. Was that role catered or switched a little bit to his personality once he was cast? Or did you have that kind of set in stone the way that it was written?
The way we got Moxley was through so when Shane and Sarah came on, they brought onto the project Christian, or many people know him as Christian J. Riso, as an executive producer and also to be in the movie. And Christian went and got we kind of said to him, we need a wrestler to step in and play that role. We talked about a few names, and he had mentioned that he knew Moxley was going to be leaving the WWE. It might be in an interesting spot in his career. And he sent Moxley the script, and me and Mox got on the phone and had a conversation, and I just felt instantly like this guy's got some charisma, and he's just got something. It's hard to put your finger on it. And he kind of said, because the script was written obviously, but he had a lot of ideas, and he said like I feel like I can give my best performance if I get to improv and kind of do my thing with it. And I was totally up for that. I like working like that anyway. And yeah, I'm really happy with the results. I mean, this guy was electricity on camera. He just he's so natural. And so he was telling me that wrestlers are like the Navy SEALs of performers, because they have to do stunt coordinating, fight choreography, acting, drama. They do it all, comedy. So it's true. Like, I mean, especially we had this one scene, the press conference, the stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor. It's just, he gave me so many different options. It was crazy.
Yeah, especially with those promos, like you said, the press conference, and then I remember the scene where Alex, or the character Reese, was at home with the wife and watching John Moxley, Randy Stone on TV, and just talking about his opponent. I mean, he like those promos are gold when he does
and he could just pull them out of anywhere. There would be one promo where I just say, like, there was one where the first time they see Randy Stone, played by Moxley, is when they're in the basement and they're like looking at one of his promos, and he's talking about some guy called Buffalo Bill. He literally, that was just like, I said, can you cut a promo that's one of your as one of your past promos? And he said, what do you want to talk about? I said, I don't know, like another wrestling opponent for a fictional promotion. And he literally sat there for 10 seconds and he said, okay, I'm ready. And he just blasted it out. And it was like one take. It was incredible. I was just like, wow, man. So
imagine if you had 4 or 5 takes. They're so good. You're like, which one do I choose for the film?
Yeah. Well, the press conference, we shot like that, like over half a day. And it ends up being like a 3-minute scene, but there was so much stuff,
And then also you have another slew of, greats in here. I mean, you've got Chuck Liddell, you've got Christian in here, you've got Luke Rockhold in here. Tell us what it was like working with those guys and how you got them cast in here.
Chuck was done through a pretty traditional way. We approached his manager and made him an offer. And I was actually surprised, because normally Chuck in movies, he only kind of does like a day or two. And, he's a busy guy, and he kind of commits to a day or two and kind of does his thing and then goes back to LA. But for this, he actually was out with us for 2 weeks. And I don't think he's ever done that many days on set for a movie. So I felt very privileged that he believed enough in the project to commit that much time of his to the project. And he was great. What I really was impressed with Chuck was that he took the craft of acting really seriously. He came with his script full of notes, ideas. He made some, nobody knows MMA better than this guy. I'm coming at it from an outsider's point of view. I tried my best to authenticate it, but I really respect people like him and Luke, and the both of them had notes and just ways of making little errors that maybe the normal person wouldn't see, but an MMA person would notice. And they want, little things like that helped me fix that. So that was great. And then Christian, obviously as an executive producer, I just thought it makes sense to put him in the movie. So, he kind of played a character that I had a lot of fun writing, and it was great to see him lifted off the page in Stephen Drake, who's this sort of MMA pundit who kind of was always chipping in with his point of view. And he was great. His scenes with Gina Gershon were so fun.
Yep, and then you also had Luke Rockhold in the film as well.
Yeah, Luke basically was very traditional. He auditioned for the part. I'm a big fan of Luke. He's his credentials in MMA are like incredible, and he was great. He kind of played the role of Tony Gunn, who's like this coach that Alex's character leaves his main coach of Chuck Liddell's to go with Tony Gunn. And Luke was great. I even got a chance to spar with him, which is pretty fun. He kicked my ass, but that's to be expected. I still had to give it my best.
And then you also got Gina Gershon in the film, as well as Elijah Baker.
Yeah, Gina's incredible. She's been in, I think, like 80 or 90 movies. And when you work with somebody like that, I feel like it's an opportunity to learn. This is my second feature film that I've directed. And just getting to work with her and see how well prepared she is, and like just little things like always knowing where to be in focus, or where to catch the light, in terms of, just even the choreography. If we're like a walk and talk scene, she just knows her craft, and that was really exciting. And then Elijah Baker is kind of at the earlier stage of his career, and but super talented, really well trained as an actor. He really knows his craft, and I loved doing those scenes, because his scenes with Gina were kind of the most dialogue heavy scenes, and watching them kind of go at it, because it was almost like looking at these kind of tennis matches, because it's the real tough relationship of a promoter and an agent, and they're both vying for things, and they both want things from each other, and seeing them negotiate those things. I really liked the drama that they pulled out of those scenes.
What would you say was your favorite moment during filming?
Probably there's a scene, I don't remember if this was the last scene we shot, but I remember when we shot the last scene that's in the movie where Alex's character wins the last fight. I guess it's a spoiler for anyone that hasn't watched it. But
Oh, you just spoiled it.
yeah, but it was my favorite because Alex had suffered a really nasty groin tear during the shooting of the movie, and it was pretty bad, like black and blue, and those things happen. Where it's a fight movie, and it was pretty physical, and it just kind of was one of the things where he was pushed the wrong way and landed funny. But he really had to push through the last fight scene of the movie. He was actually in real pain, and there's that moment when he wins and he goes down to his knees and he's screaming, and he's like kind of screaming a mixture of agony and happiness, because he's overcome some huge obstacles mentally, physically, spiritually, psychologically. And it was just so powerful because like Reese, the character, is screaming like that, but there's also Alex screaming like that because he went through real pain. And I think it feels real, and just capturing that moment felt like a really privileged moment to kind of witness. And I was really proud of him for how he pushed through that. And this guy has got a strong mind to do that. And that's probably the most satisfying moment on set for Cagefighter.
Who would you say surprised you in the film?
Luke Rockhold surprised me a lot because it was his first ever real acting role, and he's a real natural on screen. I think probably just being used to interviews, and he was really receptive. Like, I kind of, my directing style, I like to chuck a lot of different ideas and sometimes go a little unconventional with things, and using music and different triggers that might tap into somebody. And he was really open with all that, and he really loved music, so we used music a lot as a way to kind of tap into the emotion of the scene. And I was really surprised with how open and receptive he was. And I don't know how much he wants to do acting. I mean, maybe it was kind of a one and done thing. I hear he's going back into fighting, but I think if he wanted to, if he took it serious, he probably could. He could book some roles in movies.
And what would you say is the biggest thing that you've learned from this project as opposed to the other projects that you've worked on over the years?
I mean, this was for me, it was a big learning curve. This is a bigger budget than my first feature. The scale is bigger. My first film it's called Calloused Hands, was a coming of age drama. It was kind of a small, intimate, very character driven piece. And I wanted to deal with I wanted to be ambitious in terms of the scale and see stadiums filled with thousands of people and things like that. And I think the biggest learning curve is the level of preparation needed to make a movie where you're having moving parts, and also just fight choreography. I'm quite pleased with how the fights turned out. I wanted them to be really realistic, but just the level of preparation that's needed for them, and also just the fluidity that you have to have when somebody gets injured and you got to change things up. So yeah, and then also just learning stuff from Gina, just just really having an innate sense of where you should be in the frame, and kind of playing with that. So yeah, I mean, I treat these films like my film schools. Every movie I make, I learned a lot, and try to take it into the next movie.
And are there any possibility for a sequel in the future?
I would love to do a sequel, and I know the producers feel the same way. What's the saying? If it makes dollars, it makes sense. So It's I think it's down to how well the movie does. But I do have a treatment written up already for the sequel. I can say that it's big, it's badass. It involves Moxley again, if he wants to do it. It's a big role, and it's I'm very excited about it. So I do hope that it connects with fans and that we get to go take this journey again, because there's definitely more to those characters that I have, that I feel like there's more I want to say with those characters.
And tell everybody why they should see this film.
I think people should see Cagefighter because, if you love stories that are about overcoming obstacles, which we all are facing our own personal obstacles right now, with so many things going on in the world, with COVID, with the pandemic, with the elections, there's so many things that are kind of weighing down on our minds. I feel like what I wanted to do with this movie was tell a story about a man that loses everything that he deems important, and that hits his rock bottom, and then has to figure out a way to pull himself back up. When I developed this project, I was actually in my own kind of personal rock bottom in my own life, and I wanted to write my way. I'm a writer, I'm a creative, and I wanted to write my way out of that situation, and that's where Cagefighter kind of stemmed from. And it's got the bells and whistles. It's a big sports film, but at its core, it's about dealing with challenges, dealing with obstacles, and figuring out a way to get through them, and I think that if anyone has experienced that, then this will resonate with them. Plus there's fighting and action and all that other stuff.
Yep. And tell us a little bit about some of the other projects that you worked on before Cagefighter, because originally you lived in Miami, correct?
That's right. Yeah. Miami, born and raised, 305. I came to London in 2000, so when I was 19. And my first feature film, it's called Calloused Hands. It was a coming of age story that I shot. I went back home to Miami to shoot it. That's on Amazon Prime if anyone wants to check it out. It stars Andre Royo, who many people know from The Wire, and I'm really proud of that film. I've also co-produced another feature film called No Shade, which is also available on Amazon Prime. And a lot of the stuff I work on right now has an element of some genre to it, whether it's action or sports or thriller. I quite like something that involves some level of movement or physicality. And I do like what Calloused Hands was about a kid playing baseball, Cagefighter about martial arts. I'm working on something right now that has a bit of parkour in it. So yeah, just staying creative.
Okay. And then now it's time to play the lightning round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a couple things. I'm going to give you two choices, and you tell me which one you prefer.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start off with basketball or soccer?
Soccer.
Root beer soda or a root beer float?
Root beer soda.
Here's a London question for you. The London Eye or the Big Ben?
The Big Ben.
Barbecue sauce or ranch sauce?
Barbecue.
BB Mac or Five?
BB Mac.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or The Weakest Link?
Ooh, yeah, Weakest Link for sure.
Better song, Will Smith's Miami or Fergie's London Bridge? This is going to get you in trouble with the high answer this mate.
I got to go with Will Smith's Miami, because I used to that was like around the time that I left Miami. I remember that was a really big song, so I got to go with that one.
Macaroni and cheese or cheese and macaroni?
Mac and cheese.
American Gladiators or roller games?
I'll go with American Gladiators. I think I grew up on that show. So,
The prettier bird, Blue Jay, Cardinal, or Oriole?
I was a big Blue Jays fan, so as a kid, so I got to go with that one.
And then this one's a five-way question. Who is your favorite Spice Girl? Ginger, Scary, Sporty, Baby, or Posh?
I'll go with Baby.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Cool.
Why don't you tell everybody how they can contact you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. That's probably the one I use the most. It's Jesse Quinones 81. So that's just my name, 81. My production company, Wolf Cub Productions, so it's Wolf with 2 O's, is on Instagram and Twitter as well. But I'm probably easiest to get on Twitter. That's the one I'm kind of most active on.
All right. Thank you again for joining us today. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye, everybody.
See you.